Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I am your host, Willie Bragg. It's very late, 2:06 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on October the 11th, 2023. Reason I was supposed to be on at 11 p.m. tonight, but last night, rather, a few hours ago. Explanation: I work graveyard shift. I slept all day. I had to grab a quick bite to eat. I had an appearance on Around the World, Dee and Friends, this past evening, and then I had to go and grab another bite to eat, and then and this was good. Weird Wednesday came up with Extra Booyah, a friend of the show, Warren, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go stick around, watch that, give my support. So that's the explanation. And now I'm here to talk about what I'm going to talk about this evening. And in some ways, I'm going to have to defend some people that I used to defend that I don't really want to defend, but I have to defend them because the person who's attacking them the individual is actually worse. So the person I'm referring to is Bridgette Gabriel, and I don't know if y'all know who I'm referring to, but she's a right-wing some right-wing activist, Lebanese American, and she's if it's true, she was a victim of some terrorism that took place a long time ago while she was living in Lebanon. I don't believe anybody should be terrorized or whatever, what have you. But apparently, it molded her political opinions of the world and everything, and turned her into this right-wing moron that we have to listen to her every day with these dumb, retarded, right-wing hacky tweets, So, she came up with one the other day that just caught under my skin. And let me find that tweet real quick, and I will explain momentarily. Hold on a second. And and before I do, let me go and start saying my hellos to everybody real quick. And we'll start with Miguel. Hey, how are you doing, my friend? I'm glad to see you here. Also going to say, hey, Warren, I just saw you a few minutes ago on Weird Wednesday. Can't believe I'm still awake, although I just drank a Monster. Oops, well, that would do it. That would do it. I hope you have a great weekend at Comic-Con. And it's funny about Comic-Con because I started to know you online a little better last year, and it was actually around this time you were at Comic-Con when I was in Washington, D.C. at the Assange rally, and it was like my first protest in many years. So that was kind of meaningful for me to go to that protest, and I met some people there that of course, and I was all the better for it. So let's see here. Daniel Barry Sports Highlights says hi, and I am saying hello right back to you, my friend. So anyway, we're going to talk about Bridgette Gabriel. She pops up on my tweet every fucking day. I come home from work and she'll just have something stupid to say, and here she has it. This is from October the 8th. It was published on 11:07 a.m. And it had right now has 706,000 views. She says Ilhan Omar, AOC, Cori Bush, Rashida Tlaib, and the entire squad should be expelled from Congress for their hateful rhetoric toward Israel. This thing here. She's the one that said that. I thought the conservatives were opposed to identity politics. I thought conservatives were opposed to political correctness. I thought conservatives were supposed to be the free speech warriors. They're not. Not at all. There are exceptions to the rule. They claim they are. But when you hear people such as Bridgette Gabriel talking about free speech and the cancel culture and identity politics, let's go with free speech and censorship and cancel culture. She's not concerned, and I sound like a broken record. These people are not concerned about free speech. They're concerned about their own free speech. They don't give a damn about the free speech of people that they disagree with. In fact, they rather see the people that they disagree with fucking silence. It's a thought crime. It's political correctness. So, what constitutes hateful rhetoric? Let's see. Basically saying that Israel has a right-wing government, that whatever we may think of what Hamas did and their ill-fated attempts of, basically it's like firing a cap gun at a tank. That's what it was like. What Hamas did, and I know I'm going to make it clear. Any person or anyone injured or murdered by Hamas is unacceptable. It should be unacceptable. Having that said, in retaliation, Israel harming or killing anybody on the Palestinian side, also unacceptable. This is not a both-sidism. This is basically human beings should not be allowed to kill other human beings or inflict harm on other human beings. Now, saying that in American discourse will paint you as an anti-Semite or call you a terrorist lover or something along those lines. That's what it's come down to. It's a cancel culture again. But what's supposed to be applauded is, we stand with Israel. Israel got a right to defend us. This is the liberal one. We stand with Israel and for its right to defend themselves against these brutal attacks of Hamas, blah, blah, blah. And that's the liberal Democrat response. The Republican response, we must crush Hamas. We stand with Israel and just wipe them out of resistance. Put them on the dust heap of history. We stand with Benjamin Netanyahu. A war criminal, by the way. I've said that many times before. The man who was the foreign minister in Ariel Sharon's government after 9/11. It didn't take that much encouraging, but he did encourage George W. Bush, America's dumbest president, and a war criminal, by the way, and Tony Blair, British prime minister at the time, to go and invade Iraq. Didn't take that much encouraging, but he did nevertheless encourage that invasion. That makes him complicit in the war crimes. We saw how well that worked out. And I hear Josh Hawley. I don't have the tweet with me, but trust me, he did say this earlier. I did actually. If I can go on Twitter, I will. Actually, let me see if I can go on Twitter real quick and get that tweet. I don't call it X. Fuck Elon Musk. I ain't calling it X. It's Twitter. I've been calling it Twitter all this time. It's gonna still be fucking called Twitter. So he can kiss my ass. But let's see here. Let me go and scroll down and find that tweet of let's see. Let's find that tweet real quick. I've been in tweeting fool all day long. La di da di da. Yeah, from Josh Hawley. We'll go and do that real quick because that's also important. I have a very important point. And it is this. He initially on October 9th said Israel is facing an existential threat. Any funding for Ukraine should be redirected to Israel immediately. That's what he said. I say personally, I'm going to tell you what I said here in this tweet, but I would say any funding toward Ukraine should be redirected back to the U.S. I don't care if it goes into paying off the national debt. I don't care if it comes back in terms of providing health care for Americans, but anything better than more war and destruction abroad. So, Josh Hawley also proved what I'm about to say here in this tweet, because I wanted everybody to see this. When he said that Israel is facing an existential threat, any funding for Ukraine should be redirected to Israel immediately, I put that quote up there and I said, let's put an end to the myth that there is an anti-war right. Sure, many libertarians and paleo-conservatives are isolationists. And by the way, I have no beef with these people who are consistently anti-war, by the way. I just wanted to make that clear. Most of the modern Republican Party, however, are still held captive by neoconservative warmongers. And the Christian right are also neocons too. Never forget that fact, because that was the thing with the whole MAGA brand. The whole MAGA brand is like, oh, we're a new breed of Republicans. We don't go around waging war anymore. That Democrats are the war party. They're right. The Democrats are the war party. We ain't going to dispute with that. Republicans are too. They just happen to be kind of correct on Russia, Ukraine. Maybe for the wrong reasons. I'll take it. They're correct on Russia and Ukraine for the most part. A lot of the MAGA Republicans. Now, Lindsey Graham and Nikki Haley and people like that, they're the same old Bush Cheney assholes, John Bolton assholes that wants to go and wage war around the world. There's no denying of that. And let's see. But they all have this in common. When it comes to China and Taiwan, oh, they're neocon hawks like you can imagine. When it comes to the border and Mexico, they want to fucking invade Mexico. You think you got a migrant crisis right now? And I have no problem with Mexicans coming here. But you think you got a migrant crisis right now from south of the border? You're going to see a migrant crisis if you try to invade Mexico. What the fuck? The fuck? They're the same old neocons. Marjorie Taylor Greene going around, hanging around with Code Pink. Here's the thing. Yeah, fuck Bernie Sanders for having the Code Pink activists arrested. That's a given. But why I say that, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a warmonger, and believe me, Donald Trump, I do think that Donald Trump is less trigger happy than your typical Republican politician. Not defending Trump, I'm just saying, yeah, I think he's slightly less trigger happy. But let's say if someone like Mike Pence, who's basically Anderson Cooper meets Ron DeSantis, or Ron DeSantis himself, or Tim Scott, or Nikki Haley becomes president, what's going to happen there? You'll see the Bush-Cheney doctrine come back. Yeah, I know. You saw in the debates, Ron DeSantis straddling the fence and keeping quiet on foreign policy. He wants a piece of that MAGA base. If you're a Republican, liking what Trump has to offer, but don't like Trump himself, and your next choice is Ron DeSantis, you're only fooling yourself, because what you're going to get is basically the swamp that George W. Bush and Dick Cheney provided y'all 20 years ago. And if you hated that, that's what you're going to be getting with Ron DeSantis. Just think I'll warn you about it. And when I turn out to be correct, as I normally am, I'm going to tell some of those MAGA Republicans who are skeptical and dismiss what I have to say, as usual, I'm correct, and I told you so. So let's get to the subject at hand with regard to the squad, because that's what we need to talk about. Now, okay, squad. Let's see here. Let's see. Where do we go? Where do we go? Let's start with the squad. They have, they've been attacked as these radicals, what have you. In the world of what is considered the radical hard left, because the American political spectrum, the Overton window leans right, unfortunately, I would be considered hard left in America. In any country in Europe or Latin America in particular, I would be considered a relatively softy, kind of a soft center left and centricity. But in America, I would be considered hard left. I'm not trying to make it about me. I am to the left of AOC. I am to the left of Rashida Tlaib. I am to the left of Ayanna Pressley. And I am to the left of Rashida Tlaib. One probably wouldn't think that, but it's actually the truth. They're not radical. I mean, they're too scared to even challenge Nancy Pelosi to try to challenge her speakership seat 2 years ago, or almost 3 years ago. Yet Matt Gaetz was able to extract concessions out of Kevin McCarthy. So here's the thing. They're being accused of being anti-Semitic for what? For criticizing Israel. Now, for starters, I'm looking here. We'll start with Rashida Tlaib. Rashida Tlaib is Palestinian. I don't know her personally. Do I think she's anti-Semitic? I don't know. She supported Bernie Sanders for president, so I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that somebody who supports Bernie Sanders can't be anti-Semitic, but obviously, she preferred Bernie Sanders, and that includes the Ilhan Omar and AOC as well. Ayanna Pressley in 2020 decided to support a snake by the name of Elizabeth Warren. But suffice to say, she's Palestinian, Rashida Tlaib. Are y'all expecting for Rashida Tlaib to support Israel? Come on now. I mean, that's crazy. And Ilhan Omar is, just like Rashida Tlaib, they're both Muslim. Are you expecting somebody who's Muslim? And I'm not saying, I'm saying, do you expect somebody who's Muslims who are going to have issues with the concept of Israel being a settler state, a European as the way they see it, a European entity colonizing that region of the world? You're going to expect them to be rah, rah, rah. You're You're kidding yourselves. And please don't fault them for that, even if you do support Israel. But, they're largely correct. Maybe not for the same reasons that I'm critical of Israel. But here's the thing. Because I'm not a Muslim. But thing about it is, you got people getting all politically correct on the right about two members of Congress who are Muslims who are not going to cheerlead for Israel. What do you expect them to do? Are you going to ask every Catholic to in Congress to renounce the Pope? That's how ridiculous it is. AOC, she's Puerto Rican American. That's not going to be an issue one way or the other. Ayanna Presley's African American. It's not going to be an issue one way or the other. But they also had their reasons for criticizing Israel. Do I think any of them are anti-Semitic? Absolutely not. So I just think it's hypocritical for people on the right to sit there and vilify, and these are the people that are okay with bigotry, self-peddling bigotry in a lot of circumstances, where Rush Limbaugh could go around referring to Barack Obama as Puff the Magic N-word. And I'm not going to say the N-word. He said it on his radio show when he was alive. You call that racist? How dare you call Rush Limbaugh a racist when Rush Limbaugh wasn't fucking racist? So that's what we're dealing with mentality-wise. So anyway, what I want to do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a video from AOC, and what I don't like about what I'm about to do is that I've been very critical of AOC for quite a while. When she voted to bust the rail workers, some socialists busting rail workers. So, and voting for money to the Ukraine. Not sitting on her ass, her pretty ass, doing nothing about trying to give us health care. But she's cool. She's cool with censorship. She was glad to see Tucker Carlson, zapped off of Fox News. Little news for you, ASC. Institutionally, Fox News is a hell of a lot worse than Tucker Carlson, the man himself. I just want to say that. No fan of Tucker Carlson. I just wanted to go and point that out for you, dear. But AOC is correct when she did say this. So I will play you this video and I'll comment some more. Here we go. And here, she's not wrong.
Legacies after 9/11 has been the targeting and racism against Muslim Americans throughout the United States of America. And this is an extension of that legacy. Consistency, there is nothing consistent with the Republican Party's continued attack except for the racism and incitement of violence against women of color in this body. I had a member of the Republican caucus threaten my life, and you all and the Republican caucus rewarded him with one of the most prestigious committee assignments in this Congress. Don't tell me this is about consistency. Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks when you have a member of the Republican caucus who has talked about Jewish space lasers and an entire amount of tropes, and also elevated her to some of the highest committee assignments in this body. This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology when my life was threatened. Thank you. Also, one of the disgusting.
Do you see the way that she tapped that little address book at the end? She was like, pow, pow, for the effect. She is so silly. Let me go and do this for dramatic acting. She is quite an actress. But she's not wrong about calling out the Republicans, having her committee's assignments taken away from her with the Republican majority, and giving it to some very horrible people. She mentioned about Jewish space lasers, and we know who she's referring to with the damn Jewish space lasers. Referring to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Again, we'll defend her this time when it comes to Marjorie Taylor Greene, time after time again, harassing her. Basically calling her a communist. And, I'm sure that when she tweets or posts on Facebook or tweet on Twitter, AOC is some kind of communist, or her people like her are communists. I'm sure somebody's typing it in for her because, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't think can read or spell, because she's stupid. I concur or concede that AOC is probably stupid too, but she's stupid in the sense that she has no common sense. She's a child with no maturity. That's the difference. I don't know which is worse. So the severe mental retardation of Marjorie Taylor Greene, or just the immaturity and just the immaturity of AOC. Which is worse? That's a good question. But here's the thing. AOC, is not a fan of Israel, and people call her anti-Semitic. And there's nothing otherwise to indicate that she's anti-Semitic. Marjorie Taylor Greene is anti-Semitic. She went to a white nationalist forum called the American First Conference, I believe, with Nick Fuentes, who's unquestionably a white nationalist. She has a cavalier attitude toward white nationalism. She calls herself a Christian nationalist, which is basically a kind of a white supremacist ideology. In every way, shape, and form, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a white supremacist. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But, with Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's ironically a supporter of Israel, not because she loves Jewish people, but because she's one of those what you call Christian Zionists. White nationalism is, I guess you could say, split on Israel. You got some who are very pure in their ideology, and they may even hate Zionism, even overseas. But then you got some who are like, well, stick them over there, and they want to see the second coming where, Jewish people will go bye-bye, and then they can claim that land for themselves or something like that. I think that's probably the category she falls under. So, Marjorie Taylor Greene is one that's like Congressman Steve King of Iowa, former congressman. He fell under that category too. Another piece of shit. So, there's a lot to be said about these people on the right. What I'm also going to do right now, I'm going to find an oldie here, and that's Ilhan Omar. Again, while I apologize for playing AOC, likewise, I am going to apologize in advance for playing Kyle Kalinske. But don't worry, it's not blonde Kyle. This is when Kyle was mildly better. But he did talk about what he talked about about Ilhan Omar, and he was, largely correct. So this is Kyle before Crystal corrupted. Here we go.
Ilhan Omar was accused of anti-Semitism on Fox News. You'll never guess why that is. Take a look.
Top Republican.
Sorry, Fluff. Give me a second.
Is going after the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi for assigning Congresswoman Ilhan Omar to the Foreign Affairs Committee, claiming she has a history of anti-Semitic remarks. 2012, she wrote on Twitter, quote, Israel has hypnotized the world. May Allah awaken the people and help them see the evil doings of Israel. Hashtag Gaza, hashtag Palestine, hashtag Israel. Ari Fleischer, former White House press secretary, Fox News contributor. And Ari, thank you for your time today. I want to get your views on this. I just want to point out that she's a freshman Democratic member of Congress from Minnesota, Palestinian heritage and background. And what do you think about how, I guess the tweet came out first, and she was on CNN yesterday and addressed it the following way. Here's a little clip of that.
Did he say Palestinian heritage? She's Somalian, you dumbass.
That's really a regrettable way of expressing that. I don't know how my comments would be offensive to Jewish Americans. My comments precisely are addressing what was happening during the Gaza war.
Does that clear things up, Ari? Where are you in this?
It makes it even worse. The fact that she can't understand how that's offensive, it's one of the oldest anti-Semitic tropes to say that Jews control the world. When she says Israel's hypnotized the world, it's a repeat of that message. If that was the only instance, maybe you could understand it. But she also was for a boycott of Israel. This new congresswoman who's on the Foreign Affairs Committee has not called for a boycott of Russia or Venezuela or Iran.
Well, we shouldn't be boycotting Russia, Venezuela, or Iran. We shouldn't be.
Has singled out Israel for it. I just think it's a sign of the creeping problem the Democratic Party has in its grassroots that is increasingly anti-Semitic and anti-Israel.
How do you think that Speaker Pelosi?
The Democratic Party is just as pro-Israel as the Republicans. That's
Pelosi should step in, and what would you want to hear from her?
She should say it was a mistake to put Congresswoman Omar on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Anybody who holds those views as an extremist does not represent the Democratic Party. Look, the Democrat leadership historically has been very pro-Israel, but it's cracking. It's cracking because the Democrat grassroots are increasingly anti-Israel, and as we've seen with the Women's March, increasingly anti-Semitic. And Pelosi is trying to split that difference. You don't split it. You stand on principle, and you stand with Israel and with the American Jewish community. That's the problem that Nancy.
Well, then talk to Pat Buchanan. Oh, I'm sorry. He's a Republican. You don't attack Republicans when they do this shit. But, you'll go and attack Democrats as anti-Semitic. Well, I mean, anti-Semitic people can exist in both parties. She's not wrong about Israel, But there's, there's more anti-Semitism on the right. If you want to talk about where the anti-Semitism is, it's more on the right. Anti-Zionists on the left only criticizes Israel for what they do against the Palestinians. It's not out of any malice toward Jews. Whereas on the right, when they hate Jewish people, we're talking about white nationalists. I think that the white nationalist angle is worse. Call me crazy, but the Republicans, not all Republicans, obviously, but a great many, or many Republicans, or enough Republicans are kind of soft on the alt-right elements that exist out there.
Pelosi has. She's cast her lot with the wrong group.
You're a war criminal. You're a war criminal. Ari Fleischer was in the Bush administration. He's a war criminal. I'm not interested in your moral condemnation of anybody or anything. But putting that aside, listen, this is Boy Who Cried Wolf. That's what this is. Because they've done this nonstop. Chuck Schumer did the same thing. Oh, God, anybody who supports BDS, it's hatred of Jews. It's anti-Semitism. That's not anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is bigotry against Jews. She clearly said, I'm talking about Israel and what Israel is doing during one of their fucking bomb fests of Gaza. So this is Boy Who Cried Wolf stuff here. Now, when there's an actual case of anti-Semitism, people are going to roll their eyes and go, yeah, sure, that's anti-Semitic in the same way fucking BDS is anti-Semitic, when all they're trying to do is use economic pressure in order to get Palestinians human rights and in order to get some sort of a peace deal. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't like her tweet, Ilhan Omar's tweet, not because she criticized Israel. I'm all for criticizing Israel, and I think we need to do it a hell of a lot more, but because it was weirdly religious. Allah and hypnotize the world and blah. It's like, okay, that's got strong undertones of fundamentalism, which I don't agree with, and I think is bizarre. But having
okay, that one I do agree with. That angle.
We said that. Criticizing Israel is fair game. In the same way that when you criticize Saudi Arabia, you're not criticizing all Muslims and you're not Islamophobic. You're not bigoted against Muslims if you say, hey, I'm against fundamentalist Islam, I'm against Wahhabism or Salafism or the Saudi government. And this is the weird fucking bait and switch that people do. And it's when they have no other fucking argument. Ari Fleischer doesn't have an argument. He just wants to shut up criticism of Israel, shut down criticism of Israel. So he's like, oh, I guess you're anti-Semitic because you criticize Israel. No, that shit is not going to work anymore. And notice, Ilhan Omar didn't just sit down and take it. Back in the old days, if you say that to a Democrat, oh, yes, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm a bad person. But Ilhan Omar was like, okay, I worded that weird, but I was criticizing Israel. I wasn't criticizing all Jews. I'm not bigoted against Jews. I'm not anti-Semitic. Let's stop playing around here. I'm criticizing the Israeli government.
And that's correct. And there was a time years ago that you could, if anybody criticized Israel, they had to do these apologetic gymnastics out there. Like, for example, in the 1980s, Jesse Jackson made some comments about Israel, and I'm trying to remember what he said about Israel, but you know, he's got a bias toward the Palestinian cause. So people are saying, well, Jesse Jackson is anti-Semitic. That's not an indicator that Jesse Jackson is anti-Semitic. It just meant that he had a problem with the treatment of the Palestinians by the Israeli government. The treatment gotten worse since those days, because the government of Israel has gotten further and further to the right. Now, I'm going to say something that's going to be a little unpopular in my audience, but there was a time that Israel was a kind of secular that had center-left governments. There was once upon a time that did it happen. Those days are gone. The Labor Party in Israel has been out of power since 2000, and Meretz, which is probably the furthest left party with a social justice conscience, is out of their Knesset. The Israeli left totally collapsed. Just about. There's almost no more Israeli left. There used to be a strong Israeli left. A lot of secular people are leaving Israel because they just can't take the shit anymore. And so the country's gotten further to the right. Now, I'm not going to mince words. You can't call it anything else but apartheid. I don't know what the hell you can call this country when you have open air prisons and you have basically, you won't allow the people to have an infrastructure. You won't allow, you have checkpoints and you monitor people and you consider them suspects. Now, people claim that the Uyghurs in China are being mistreated by the Chinese government. I have some problems with the Chinese government, but I objectively look into the Uyghur situation in China, and I don't see any wrongdoing by the Chinese government. They may monitor them a little more because they're kind of tied in with the Taliban, but they're not systematically persecuting the Uyghur population in China. From a civil libertarian standpoint, I may question their method of monitoring them, but that's nothing compared to what Israel's doing to the Palestinians. I mean, basically blockading them, especially in the Gaza. They're not allowed to leave the Gaza. They're not allowed to leave the country. I mean, they're not allowed to go to Egypt. They're not allowed to go to the United States. They're not allowed to go to Saudi Arabia. They're not allowed to go to anywhere. They're subjugated there and they suffer. It's not anti-Semitic to point that out. It's not. And it's gotten worse. It's worse there in the Gaza than it is in the West Bank, but it's not. They don't have it all that good in the West Bank either. Now, everybody's complaining about how evil Hamas is, and I'll make it. I'll say it like it is. I have no use for Hamas. Fuck Hamas. They're right wing. So is the Israeli government. Fuck the Israeli government too. They're right wing. Fuck Benjamin Netanyahu. He's right wing. You got a lot of right wing people doing shitty things to each other. Now, I'm not both sizing it. With some people say, oh, here you go, both sizing it. No. I'm going to show you that I'm not both sizing it. You see what Hamas is? Let me tell you about Hamas. Hamas was a creation by the Israeli Mossad. I should be careful what I say, too. This video could be taken down. The Mossad was created to havoc division within the havoc division within the PLO, which is a shell of its former self. That's what it comes down to. It's a shell of its former self. And that's where we're at right now with this situation. This is not we're talking about human rights. And that's what we're talking about. If Norway were treating people in Estonia like this, I will call out Norway and Sweden if they were persecuting people in Estonia or Latvia or Lithuania or any of the Baltic countries. Speaking of the Baltic republics, that part of Europe, I think that what should have been done after World War II as a form of reparations for the Jewish people who suffered under Hitler and suffered centuries of evil by the monarchy, by the established church, and by the right wing, the cultural right throughout Europe against the Jewish people, what they have suffered. What the allies of World War II should have done, the United States, Great Britain, France, Soviet Union, instead of this migration toward Palestine to create the state of Israel in 1948, they should have taken what is, I guess, pretty much Kaliningrad and what used to be East Prussia. And East Prussia was a province of Germany, is in now what is the northern part of Poland today. Kind of where between Poland and Lithuania, there's a little strip that's part of Russia. That means that could have been considered a Jewish homeland. And I think that would have probably been a better alternative. And it would be a fuck you to any of the Nazis that were still around that allowed this kind of suffering to take place. But I digress. Let's see here. Okay, let's go with the next video, and that's Marjorie Taylor Greene. And Farron Cousins. Again, I'm sorry, I got to play some Farron Cousins, playing some shit libs tonight. But this is classic, what I used to do. But it's fitting for what needs to be discussed. That's not the right video. Hold on. Nope, not yet. Not that one. Sorry. Okay, let me get the right video here. I probably should have made this exclusively a Rumble video. Let's see here. Right here. Here we go. Here's Farron Cousins. What do you have to say about Marjorie Taylor Greene? Very important video. So we'll let him start. Go ahead. Take it away.
So even though she's only been in office for about 15 months now, Marjorie Taylor Greene has said so many stupid things that we forget about where it all began, right?
Oh. Come on. We'll start it again. Sorry.
So even though she's only been in office for about 15 months now, Marjorie Taylor Greene has said so many stupid things that we forget about where it all began, right? And one of the dumbest and craziest, and let's be honest, racist things that she ever said actually came from 2018, 2 years before her election, when she was talking about the California wildfires and expressed her concern on Facebook that they may have been caused by space lasers run by a prominent Jewish family, the Rothschild. And so recently at an event, she was approached by a reporter who wanted to get some answers about this, now almost 4-year-old quote from her. And in case you're not familiar, here is what Greene had to say on Facebook back in 2018 as California is being ravaged by wildfires. This is what this person said 2 years before she was elected to Congress. They're beaming the sun's energy back to Earth. I'm sure they wouldn't ever miss a transmitter receiving station, right? What would that look like anyway? A laser beam or a light beam coming down to Earth, I guess. Could that cause a fire? I don't know. I hope not. That wouldn't look good for Pacific Gas and Electric, Rothschild Inc., Solarin, or Jerry Brown, who sure does seem fond of PG&E. So the reporter went up to her and said, hey, listen, this was your post under your name. You're talking about the Rothschild family, which has been at the center of anti-Semitic conspiracies since the 19th century. Greene responds, I did not know that. I had no idea. I'm telling you. So the reporter says, but now that you do know, now that you've been told anti-Semitism is on the rise at an alarming rate, and at this point, Greene gets mad. So before the reporter can even finish the point, talking about anti-Semitism rising across the globe, especially here in the United States, she interjects, angrily yelling, I'm fully against anti-Semitism. You're mixing two things together. You're accusing me of something I did not do, and then you're trying to blame me for anti-Semitism. I'm a Christian. I support Israel. I'm one of the most pro-Israel voters in Congress. So why don't you judge me by those things instead of twisting and turning what you think I was writing in some 2018 Facebook post? He didn't twist and turn anything. He literally did what I just did, which was read you what you wrote. There was no twisting and turning necessary there, Marjorie. You said this thing. You threw out the name of this family, the Rothschilds, and now you're like, oh, I didn't even know who they were. Of course you didn't. Because that's how well these conspiracies have taken hold. That there is somehow this prominent Jewish family, like the reporter pointed out, since the 19th century, that's been the target of anti-Semitic attacks because it's just an easy target for y'all, right? Because that's why you do these things. People were dying, by the way, in these fires. Billions of dollars worth of damage caused by these fires. Donald Trump, as president at the time, mocking the state of California for not raking their forests. When in reality, of course, it was the energy company, PG&E. Faulty equipment sparked the fires, from what we know. And here she is blaming these Jewish space lasers, and then has the audacity to get angry when somebody brings it up. That was 2018. You're a sitting member of Congress. Guess what? Everything you've ever said ever is now something that you're going to be held accountable for. You don't want that. That's how things work. Hey, everyone. This is Aspen.
And, and the thing is, she doesn't get called out by her own caucus or the party because, they're partisan hacks. And Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and AOC said, and again, I'm not defending them like I used to, but what they have said in the past about Israel is not really that controversial. It smacks with a lot of truth. And if you're a decent human being, you would roughly, in principle, agree with this. And again, I got a lot of problems with the squad. They're not left-wing enough. They don't fight hard enough for Medicare for all. They don't fight hard enough to expand labor rights. They don't fight hard enough for free college. They don't fight hard enough to fight the military-industrial complex. They don't fight hard enough to try to free Julian Assange. Okay? AOC is too pro-censorship. So there's problems I have with the squad. I'm not trying to be the inside outside, half independent, half, I will support this progressive Democrat here while I say fuck this corporate Democrat there. Those days are gone. But some of their criticisms of Israel is valid. And if they had anti-Semitic motivations, I would not be defending it. Let's talk about Rashida Tlaib. There's this guy, he's from Texas. He lives down in Florida. His name is Wild Bill for America. He's a right-wing creep. And short video, I'll tell you, just listen to what he had to say about Rashida Tlaib, and then I'll conclude with my final comments, rather.
As an American, I am outraged and ashamed at the lies that certain so-called Americans tell against the nation of Israel. American Democrats in particular are a national disgrace. Many, like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, open their mouths and lies fly out like projectile vomiting.
You're anti-Muslim. You're proud to be anti-Muslim. You said so yourself.
Well, today I'm going to balance the narrative. It wasn't long ago that a Palestinian mother was horrified that her baby had stopped breathing. She scooped up her baby and desperately ran towards the people she knew would help. She ran to the nearest Israeli soldiers. The Israelis immediately called their hospital, and their commanding officer, an Israeli colonel, heard the call. He personally drove a doctor to the scene, and the doctor saved that little baby's life.
Another thing about Israel, and here's where I'm going to say something nice about Israel, something that you wouldn't like, Wild Bill. Israel has universal health care. I know it probably breaks your heart. They do have universal health care. It's funny that you're okay with a country that has universal health care, but you don't want it here. I just trying to figure that out. And honestly, I would think he would be more sympathetic to the neighboring countries who are less tolerant toward LGBTQs, where places like Iran is punishable by death, whereas there at least LGBTQ community can have pride parades. Of course, with this right-wing government in Israel, they might put a stop to that, and I'm sure that's going to make you happy.
That is how the Palestinians are treated by Israel.
Palestinians are also heavily discriminated, and they're treated like animals. You had the defense minister talking about cutting off food, water, electricity, infrastructure in the Gaza. Are you for that? I think you probably are. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but just seeing that you're like some kind of bastard concoction of Chuck Norris meets Ted Cruz, but 100 times more right-wing than they are. Yuck.
And a few years before that, a mentally retarded Palestinian boy who was often seen wandering the streets of his neighborhood was grabbed by Hamas terrorists. They beat that poor boy and terrorized him into doing what they wanted.
And the Israeli Defense Force goes around and terrorize Palestinian men, women, and children, sometimes older people and young people too. Spoiler alert, he's going to tell you how the Israelis rescued that child's life and what pieces of shit Hamas is. Of course, I don't have any use for Hamas, but he's trying to soft pedal Israel here. So we'll listen to what he says, and then we'll let him continue.
They strapped a bomb to the boy and put the detonator in his hand and ordered him to walk up to a group of Israeli soldiers and push the button. But as the frightened boy was approaching the soldiers, his coat came open and they saw the bomb. They scrambled behind their concrete barriers, pointed their guns at the boy, and ordered him to stop. Now, they would have been perfectly justified shooting him right there on the spot.
That's the Wild Bill we know. He likes to say powerful people have the right to shoot children. That's how I'm interpreting it.
But the boy began to cry, and not one Israeli soldier pulled the trigger. And believe it or not, a lone soldier stepped out from behind his concrete wall, walked up to the boy, and disarmed the bomb.
Now, if Wild Bill for America was a member of the IDF, you heard what he said, that what they were supposedly justified to do but did not. We know what Wild Bill for America would have probably done. So sounds like, you're just a little worse than the IDF, Wild Bill.
To Hamas, that poor retarded boy was nothing but a mule that they could abuse and use to murder Israelis. But to those Israeli soldiers, that boy was a life worth saving. was about 2 years ago, I think, that an American Air Force officer who had served in Israel declared the Israeli military to be the most moral military in the world. That's quite an honor. And today, the same terrorists who tried to blow up that mentally retarded boy are launching thousands of missiles on Israeli citizens. They don't.
Yeah. And for every 4 or 5 Israelis that gets killed by those missiles, and that's 4 or 5 too many Israelis, they retaliate in such massive response where 50 Palestinians die in return. That's not right. That is not right. 5 Israelis being killed in this conflict is 5 Israelis too many, and 50 Palestinians getting killed in response is 50 Palestinians too many.
Care if they kill little children. To them, the only good Jew is a dead Jew. And
you supported Bush and Cheney's war. You supported that criminal war in the Middle East that murdered over 1 million innocent Israelis. I mean, Iraqis. Excuse me, Iraqis. You're one of those people that think, well, Saddam Hussein got weapons of mass destruction. He got weapons of mass destruction. Rush Limbaugh said it. It's got to be true. If Fox News says it, it's got to be true. You're one of those people.
In fact, one of 7 of those Hamas missiles lands in Palestinian neighborhoods, killing Palestinian children. And of course, they blame Israel for killing those children.
Look what that asshole did, Benjamin Netanyahu. They're going to go in there and they're going to go in there and turn the Gaza into a parking lot. And I'm sure your tiny little insignificant peanut-sized penis will probably turn into a small cashew as a result, because that's the kind of person you are.
And bloodthirsty American Democrats like Rashida Tlaib join the cacophony of lies about Israel. As an American, I cannot and will not remain silent.
And you believe the lies about weapons of mass destruction, idiot.
As Hamas terrorists murder Israelis, and American terrorists like Rashida Tlaib cheer for the murders.
Give me one example of any terrorism that she's committed. I'm waiting. Crickets.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer once said, "Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless." So I am calling out the bloodthirsty evil of Hamas, and I'm calling out the shameless evil of Rashida Tlaib. She belongs in a prison cell in Guantanamo Bay. She and half the Democrat Party are men and women who have sold their souls to pure evil.
Fuck you, and fuck you with your Guantanamo Bay bullshit. You're an asshole. And I hate people like you. You're absolute garbage for a human being. You're just vile.
And they deserve to be publicly challenged by name. And when the day comes, they will be prosecuted just like the Nazis were at Nuremberg.
You got more Nazi sentiment than anybody around. You fucking asshole. Look, that's what we're dealing with right there. That's what we're dealing with pieces of shit like that motherfucker. And and these are people that they're for free speech, but don't you dare talk about Israel. Don't you dare hurt their feelings. But he'll sit there and bash Muslims all day, and bash the LGBTQ community all day, and bash and he even claimed, and he's one of those. Well, Democrats are the real racists. They're and Democrats are garbage. Republicans are garbage. That they're that kind of right wingers that pretend to be so concerned about the plight of African Americans, but then when and he started complaining about Black Lives Matter and wants to get rid of welfare, assuming that all Black people are on welfare, which is racist, honestly, just to make that assumption. He's the pips, man. He really is. So anyway, this is the kind of mess that we're talking about. And I know the name of the channel was Bridgette Gabriel, and he's a fan of hers. But she just popped up on my feed, and as I was creating this video, I decided to add a little bit of extra information up there and everything. So just to put into fuller context. So anyway, as I said hello earlier to Miguel and Warren and Daniel, very sports highlights. So I see V.S. Adams saying here, all politicians are a mouthpiece for the military industrial complex. Mac. Yep. What the fuck? Yep. My tax dollars will not be pulled into another war. No more wars. Absolutely. What is this? It says cream. What's it? Cream soul? Slow. Let's see. And peace. Absolutely. So anyway, what else is going on? Thursday at 7:30. Jamar Jabari is coming up here to the Willie Bragg Show. We're going to be discussing Cornel West. We're going to be discussing Claudia Dela Cruz and what I believe is the fuckery of Peter Dow. And, just what's happened with his decision not to work on the Green Party slate, but to work as an independent, which I personally think is a mistake, but, that's where I stand. And I say this to somebody who's planning to vote for Cornel West in 2024. So that's this Thursday at 7:30. Friday, Jimi Sunderland and myself will be doing Braglands. And that's 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. She lives in California. I live here in North Carolina. And Saturday night at 8 o'clock, I'll be doing a live stream for the Willie Bragg Show. Subject to be determined. And I'll conclude by saying to you all, if you like what you heard, please press like, share, comment, and subscribe to the Willie Bragg Show here on YouTube, Twitch, Rumble, and follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter. Let's see. Also, go ahead and feel free to share, as I say, share the content I have here on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. And until next time, always reject corporate media because they have absolutely nothing to offer. So, I will say good night to each and every one of you, because I got to get my beauty sleep. I'm off this evening. I work graveyard. So y'all take care. Here's some music by my friend Kenny Arrow, a smaghead. He's a friend of the show. So enjoy, and we will talk later. Au revoir.